Hi there guys, welcome to this tutorial on how best to get an A star in section B of your GCSE exam, the Unit 1 exam for AQA. Focusing specifically in this tutorial on those students taking their higher paper, but if you are taking the foundation paper, hopefully there'll be some really important tips here for you as well to get full marks on that paper. Okay, just starting off with the examiner speak, the way that you're being tested, and the assessment objectives are here on your screen. And really we can see that they're about communication in strand 1, organisation and technical accuracy. And indeed that's how I would sum them up. Your content, how interesting your ideas are, and how interesting your vocab choices are, how cohesive and fluid your structure is, and your technical accuracy is basically your spelling and punctuation and grammar. On your screen here are this table I use quite often with classes to help them to identify their own strengths and weaknesses on this paper. It can be overwhelming writing section B, but I think it's important to see that there are a number of skills and areas that you might be quite strong in, as well as areas that you might need to focus on a bit. Just draw your attention to some of these structural ones. Connectives is something that I'm finding students struggle with a bit at the top end. Using some sophisticated connectives, such as furthermore, consequently, can give your writing a real sense of sophistication and maturity. And I think that kind of links with this idea of ordering your ideas logically and using topic sentences to help create a sense of fluidity and sequencing. So on the higher paper there are two writing questions which you must answer both of them. First question focuses on writing to inform and perhaps also describe. The second one, as you're probably aware, is persuade or to argue. I just want to draw your attention to that bottom section. You must focus on the purpose, audience and form of your question. The amount of students who read a question superficially and don't fully engage with who it is they're writing for and why are they writing and the form in which they should be writing, and lose crucial marks that way is just incredible really. So just make sure you're reading that question carefully. And linked to this is it is crucial for you to know the conventions. You must show an understanding of the form you're being asked to write in. If you've been asked to write a speech, then it doesn't need to be set out like a letter. If it's a formal article, then slang wouldn't be appropriate. Likewise, if you were doing a letter, make sure you've got an address up at the top and you're using greetings and concluding your writing with an appropriate exit. Yours sincerely, yours faithfully. Think about your audience. What is the most appropriate way of talking to them? Your writing must suit the intended audience to get the top marks. And you also need to show the examiner you really understand a range of strategies and ones that are appropriate for the purpose. So they want to see a range of techniques. So if you are looking to write descriptively, they want to see that you've got a range of interesting, unusual adjectives. You've got simile, personification, and at the top end at A star, not just metaphor but extended metaphor, imagery which runs throughout a piece of writing. Sophisticated techniques such as pathetic fallacy or perhaps using minor sentences for impact. Likewise, this isn't a lengthy story that should have numerous characters chatting, and therefore we would expect, if not an absence of it, then that to be limited. So getting an A star, bear with me, getting an A star is about subtle, I'm sorry it's cropped it off there at the bottom, but it's about subtle manipulation of these conventions, and making sure that whatever you're writing, your purpose, whether it be inform, whether it be persuade or whether it be argue, that you are showing off a range of strategies. Okay. I thought it would be useful for you to have a look at a D grade response. So you can really see the distinction between A star, the level you're aspiring to, and a student who performed not quite so well. So last summer's task was to write an entry for your online blog, which describes a time when you felt uncertain or unsure about a situation you were in, and explain how you overcame it. And it does in fact give you a definition blog, a regular online piece of personal writing. Now, the examiners helpfully sort of identified the fact that it was personal, and therefore would expect a first person perspective and to reveal personal information. It sounds fairly obvious, doesn't it? But lots of people overlooked that. And lost crucial marks. So let's have a look at this. Yesterday I was in school with my so-called friends, and one of them was asking me to do something wrong. I kept on saying no, but they wouldn't stop, which was putting pressure on me to do it. After a while of arguing with them, I finally gave up. The biggest mistake of my life. You can tell that my lung capacity was not great there, perhaps, but it needed more punctuation, didn't it? It was far too long for one sentence. I threw a stink bomb onto the school corridor. The horrendous odour of the wretched thing. Now, this is some pretty nice vocab, actually, isn't it? Combined with the fresh air, almost as if they were playing mercy. But obviously the stink bomb was stronger. Soon after the smell had disappeared, so we've got a fairly basic spelling error there. Someone had to take the blame, so we all blamed it on an innocent boy in my class that has never done a bad thing in his life. When I got home, I thought about what had happened over and over again and realised these weren't real friends, they was just using me. So we've got a few issues here. We've got apostrophes missing. We've got a massively overly long sentence. There's a bit of a lack of interest in vocab, with the exception of those three that I mentioned previously, and obviously some grammatical issues here with the was. So this student getting 7 out of a potential 16. Moving on to a student who would have got probably a C or a B grade with this response. So think about how they start this off and how it's much more engaging than the D grade response. Everyone has problems with their looks, but at the time I felt it was only me. Red bulging spots mounded my face like volcanoes about to explode. Legs the size of huge tree trunks, bigger than anyone's had seen before. Skin as white as a ghost, washing me out and emphasising my blotchy skin. I couldn't even look in the mirror, I just wanted to cry. I'd hide behind layers of makeup and baggy clothes. It wasn't the real me, not the clothes I liked, or the natural glow I wanted. I was hiding behind it all, not showing the inner me. I felt disgusting. You could pause this here and have a look at the rest of this response, but I just wanted to draw your attention to a couple of things that I think are quite effective in this response. Bear with me, you see the touch screen, it's causing me issues. Look here at how the students used adjectives. Red bulging spots. And think about the way they've used verbs interestingly. Mounded my face. Like volcanoes. About to explode. So I'm enjoying this student's use of simile here. Straight away within this first paragraph. Legs the size of huge tree trunks. Bigger than anyone's I'd seen before. Skin as white as a ghost. So, another simile. So interesting imagery here. And emphasising, nice vocab, my blotchy skin. We've got accuracy here with apostrophes, which is good. We're looking for technical stuff as well. Even I just wanted to cry. And obviously we've got kind of a short sentence after some more compound and complex ones, which gives impact here. I was hiding behind it all. This is such an honest piece of writing that it really fits in with the idea of this being personal, not showing the inner glow. And I think this is such a powerful and honest and sentence. I felt disgusting. It's really believable. It feels like a student writing a blog. And it just has all those qualities of personal writing. It's really powerful and effective in that sense. Right, I know that what you're keen to really see here is the A-star response, so let's move on to that. Again, the same piece of writing. It was Alton Towers again. Oh no, I hated rides, and everyone knew it. Whether it's roller coasters, waltzers, or the teacups, I despised it with a passion, but this time I was year 9 and felt utterly embarrassed. Early get up to watch my friends on rides, great. Early bright light burnt through my windows and lit up my psychedelic green and purple walls as I battered my alarm clock into a submissive silence. This year I'm going on a ride. I drilled into my head I knew I wouldn't. The coach was a tin full of sardines, vacuum packed in. Time flowed slow like honey off a silver spoon, and children laughing and nattering away filled the air. I was queasy. Finally, going on the ride, said Jamie. My heart skipped a beat. Zooming past fields of green with hopeless sheep in them, dreading the experience. The coach pulls to a halt on the superheated matte black tarmac. Baking sun and blistering wind didn't impede anyone as a torrent of hyperactive schoolkids flooded into the park. Queuing was immense. Not the queue, the experience. My eyes grew, pupils expanded. Matthew's voice seemed distant. It was all too real. My hands were at this point dripping with sweat. I grew more aware of the experience as I neared the ride, and I was shaking. I don't know how I sat in the seat, but I did, in some trance. So we'll look at the end of this response in just a moment, but just to highlight some of the really kind of impressive elements of this. Looking at this in a technical way, you've got minor sentences, short sentences for effect. You've got that combined with, longer sentences such as this third one in, which also include commas for lists. What I'm impressed with is this student's use of imagery as well. Looking in the second paragraph, my psychedelic green and purple walls, and also that they use interesting verbs like battered. That's far more expressive than I turned my alarm clock off, isn't it? It really conveys that the student was angry, irritated. And see how they also use alliteration here, don't they? Quite effective into a submissive silence. This is a student who has consciously crafted their writing. They've thought about the impact of their vocabulary choices. We've got some, what I love up here, time flowed slow like honey off a silver spoon. What an incredibly unusual simile that is. It's really evocative, isn't it? We can imagine honey, thick, gloopy substance off a silver spoon, and it's just original and unusual, and it really helps it to stand out. We've got here a verb sentence starter showing a bit of sophistication, and kind of looking through this paragraph, we've got some more alliteration with the baking and blistering, and sophisticated vocabulary like impede, torrent, hyperactive, immense even. It's not without fault, is it? Because my old friend the apostrophe is missing here, and there are a few crossings out, and I think that's quite important to note that it's not necessary for this to be perfect. You will make some mistakes in it as an exam, but an A-star is still within your grasp. So just looking at the end of the student's response, I allowed them to strap me in. Here we go. As the ride started, it seemed too slow. No one was screaming, but then we hit the drop. Lovely ellipsis there for effect. That pause. I was holding on for dear life, out of my control. And we see you've got these short sentences which really help to build tension. All I saw was a blur of a queue, and euphoria took over. Nice vocab. At the end of the ride, everyone staggered down the blue carpet and out of the way of the ride. I never have found my sanity again, as every time we go to Alton Towers, I'm fighting to be first. And you can see here the examiner's feedback on that. So things I thought were impressive: the ellipsis for effect, different sentence starters, which we thought about the verbs on the other slide, unusual vocabulary choices. Paragraph is clear and controlled, it's personal, and it engages. There's a sense of humour here as well. And there's definitely a sense of beginning, middle and end. Okay, so that's an A star. Question 5, response. Here's the mark scheme for an A star, and you could pause this tutorial and have a look at this in a degree of depth. What I've tried to do on the next slide is to summarise some of the more important sort of features of this and unpick some of the examiner speak for you. You should be able to see that this is kind of what I described earlier as the content. This is what I would have described to you earlier as the structure, and this is the technical accuracy. Okay, I can assure you my handwriting is better than my touchscreen ability. And I think a few things, at the top end, the exam board are highlighting some of the techniques they would like to see. So are you someone who's comfortable with rhetorical question, hyperbole, satire? And we'll come to this in a minute. Are you consciously crafting? Ask yourself, how extensive is your vocabulary? How ambitious are the word choices? Or are you playing it safe? Are your paragraphs linked? So are you using discursive markers to link things, linking words? And looking down at the accuracy, punctuation, is it successful? You have to ask yourself, of these criteria, which of them are you meeting, which of them are you still needing to work on? So I think there's a few things I just wanted to draw your attention to. The top band, the exam boards say that A-star students are convincing and compelling. What does that mean? It means that I just want to read your work. I'm drawn into what it is you're writing. I'm interested, which is pretty much the purpose of all writing, isn't it? To be honest. But also, they want to see that you're assuredly matched. So this is when they're talking about purpose, audience and forms. And really this means you can write in appropriate forms. So you can write like an article or a radio script or a speech, and you can capture an appropriate tone of voice for that for that form or for that audience, for that purpose. On the last slide, I circled consciously crafted. The examiner wants to feel that you're thinking about the kind of effects you're creating, and part of that is the extensive vocabulary. I call this in my class the big words, the impressive ones, the ones you normally look through the thesaurus to find. They want to see that you've got a really impressive and sophisticated vocabulary. Connecting your ideas together is hugely important, and you can do this through, linking words such as furthermore, consequently, or even more basic ones such as, firstly, secondly, finally, etc. The exam board are interested that you are using a wide variety of sentence forms, so a range of minor, simple, compound, complex, but also looking to see that you can use sentences perhaps that start with an adjective or an adverb or a verb, and that you're not always using a subject, verb, object sentence structure. Ask your teacher about that, or check out one of my other tutorials. It's a different topic, but you're showing complexity and range. And complex and successful punctuation, right? We don't want to just be seeing full stops and exclamation marks. So semicolons used, commas, ellipsis. For some reason I put commas twice. That's how important it is. So looking at this A-star example then, you can see that there's an extensive amount of planning being produced by the student, and it does remind me that you are ultimately looking at 35 minutes to respond to this. So you do have time to think carefully about how to structure your response. And I think this is quite good. The students really thought carefully about the different points they're going to make in all 5 of the paragraphs. Okay, so let's have a look and see how they've tackled this response, which once more I think I had a bit of a technical issue there, so if there was a break there, apologies. But it's a student who's writing an article for a newspaper about with a focus of people that save lives or help improve the lives of others are the true role models of today. As I say, might have had a bit of a technical issue just then. So the student starts off with a really strong viewpoint. I agree completely. So this shows quite a lot of confidence, doesn't it, to agree completely. And this is this is writing to argue. And we know that if we're writing to argue, you've got to come across as being confident. You don't want to be umming and ahhing about this. So the student starts off in a successful way. I agree completely that people who save lives or help improve the lives of others are the true role models of today. A role model should be someone to look up to, someone who has all the qualities of goodness, compassion, love and strength. Wouldn't you agree? So, rhetorical question. Nice start. Engaging the reader, making them reflect, making them think about the topic. In our society, it's quite inclusive, in our society, we're surrounded by unsung heroes, people who spend their days saving, helping and improving our own days, weeks, months, years. So I quite like this. You've got some lists of 3 going on and really reinforcing the qualities of these heroes, saving, helping and improving ours. Our own, which is littered with celebrities and emaciated models who live their lives being famous for simply being famous. The celebs, and this is when we talk about successful use of punctuation. The use of those quotation marks creates this tone, doesn't it, of sarcasm. The student doesn't really feel that they are celebrities, and it's quite scathing and scornful. The celebs receive billions of pounds for tanning and wearing the latest swimwear, while courageous men and women, it's a lovely adjective to have used, receive a modest wage for choking on smoke to carry us from a burning building, racing through the streets to shock a heart of someone's mother, father, brother back into action. Firemen and women, doctors, nurses, lifeguards, scientists and emergency rescue services toil day and night to keep the human race, well, running. Lovely choice of verb there to show the effort that these unsung heroes go to. And commas used successfully here, listing the people who these role models and everyday heroes are helping, kind of really reinforces it. The burning building, it's alliteration. It shows just how sort of dramatic their daily lives are. You've got ellipsis here, creating a nice pause. Some people may say that is their job to save lives. It's no brave thing to quench a fire for money. However, so we've got some discursive markers here, linking words, looking at a sense of debate. You must see. Yeah, this is writing to argue. So the students spot on by creating an imperative tone, commanding us. You must see that it was their choice of job. The money had nothing to do with it. Had these saviours, interesting, wanted millions, they would never have come anywhere near their current employment. Like I mentioned above, okay, so more linking, referencing backwards and forwards. We are constantly bombarded with celebrities, blockbusters, the next fashionable thing to wear, Photoshop faces plastered on billboards. These are no role models. A simple, declarative sentence. Student sounds very assertive and confident. There is no substance to them, no goodness. Nice sort of simple sentences here, really asserting a point of view. Just plastic and glitter. Unfortunately, I like that adverb starter. Our youth of today have grown up with these ideals. They suffer lies and media brainwashing, while the true role models are left in the gutter. And they've used a metaphor here, a strong metaphor to to get across their point of view that that these true role models are, having less respect than they. So finishing off, a survey completed by the Department of Social Care and Health found that 15% of lives lost in emergency situations of those of the rescuer themselves. Now, this is really interesting. The students used facts here. Are they real? Are they made up? Do I care? No. It's important, isn't it, if you're writing to argue, to back up your ideas with some facts. Themselves. Firemen caught in the blast, lifeguards drowned in unruly seas. The list goes on. An expert on the emergency service, Joanna, say that word, Spence, told me our everyday supermen and women are being barely recognised. Our society has left them behind, and while they save life after life, more money is spent on an episode of EastEnders than in their annual budget for ambulances. Sometimes I feel I'm the only one who cares anymore. Equally, this quote. It's highly unlikely that that's a genuine quote, but does it matter? Because it sounds believable, it sounds credible, and it's supporting the argument. This is why I agree completely, and this is how the student is really coming to their conclusion now, concluding their ideas, and we see the repetition of that first assertion about completely agreeing. The work of saving and improving others' lives is completely selfless. They live their lives to save our lives. A lovely sense of parallelism here. These are the kind of role models we need. No, and I think this is important here. See, the student has used glitter and then crossed it out. And I suspect that's because previously, on the last slide, they'd talked about glitter. So they've gone back and edited that and thought, rather than repeating myself, what else can I use? So, no sparkles or plastic, just simple grit, determination, and overwhelming compassion for other people. So I've got the list of 3 again. If you think there is any better role model, please be my guest. And we've got that pause at the end. And I would entirely agree with the examiner who says that this is convincing and compelling. It fulfills all that criteria we looked at earlier. And it's got complexity, it's got ambitious spelling. It's really a superb response if you think that's done in just over half an hour in exam conditions. Okay, so you've seen what it takes to get an A star. Now, it's time for you to go out and try and practice that for yourselves. Best of luck.